Part 1. A visit to the museum, learning about history and artifacts. One sunny Saturday morning, Emily and her younger brother, Jack, woke up very early. They were excited because today was a special day. Their parents were taking them to the big city museum. Emily loved history, and Jack loved to see old things from the past. They quickly ate breakfast, packed some snacks, and got ready for the day. Their father, Mr. Brown, drove them to the museum. As they arrived, the building looked huge and beautiful. It had tall columns and large steps leading to the entrance. They walked up the steps and entered through the big glass doors. Inside, it was cool and quiet, with shiny marble floors and high ceilings. The family went to the information desk to get a map of the museum. Mrs. Brown suggested they start with the history section. Emily and Jack agreed. They walked down a long hallway until they reached a large room filled with interesting displays. The first thing they saw was an exhibit about ancient Egypt. There were tall statues of gods and goddesses, colorful paintings, and real mummies in glass cases. Emily read the signs aloud to Jack, explaining how the ancient Egyptians believed in many gods and took great care to preserve the bodies of the dead. Next, they moved to the section about the Roman Empire. Jack was amazed to see a real Roman soldier's armor. It was made of metal and looked very heavy. Emily explained that the Romans were great warriors and builders. They made strong roads and big buildings that are still standing today. After that, they walked to the medieval section. Here, they saw knights' armor, old swords, and even a model of a castle. Jack imagined being a brave knight, protecting the castle from enemies. Emily liked the beautiful dresses and jewelry that the ladies wore during that time. Then, they reached the section about the explorers. There were maps, old ships, and tools used by sailors long ago. Emily pointed to a big globe and showed Jack the routes taken by famous explorers like Christopher Columbus and Ferdinand Magellan. She explained how these explorers traveled across the seas to discover new lands. The family then took a break and sat down in the museum cafe. They ate their snacks and talked about all the things they had seen so far. Emily and Jack were full of questions, and their parents were happy to answer them. After their break, they went to see the artifacts from different cultures around the world. They saw beautiful pottery from ancient China, colorful masks from Africa, and delicate glass from ancient Rome. Each item had a story, and Emily enjoyed reading about the history of each artifact. Finally, they visited the section about modern history. There were old photographs, newspapers, and items from the 20th century. Emily and Jack saw things like old telephones, radios, and even an early computer. They laughed at how big and funny-looking the first computers were compared to the ones they used at home. As the day came to an end, Emily and Jack felt tired but happy. They had learned so much about history and seen so many amazing things. Mr. Brown took a family photo in front of the museum before they left. Emily thought about how she would tell her friends all about their visit to the museum. On the drive home, Emily and Jack talked about their favorite parts of the museum. Emily loved the ancient Egypt exhibit, and Jack couldn't stop thinking about the knights and their armor. They both agreed that the museum was a wonderful place to learn and have fun. As they reached home, Emily wrote in her diary about the day's adventure, and Jack drew pictures of the things he saw. They couldn't wait to go back to the museum again to discover more about the world's history and its amazing artifacts. Part 2. A visit to the museum, learning about history and artifacts. The following Saturday, Emily and Jack woke up early again, eager for their second visit to the museum. They had enjoyed their first trip so much that they could hardly wait to see what new things they would discover. Mr. and Mrs. Brown were happy to take them back, knowing that the museum was a great place for learning and family fun. This time, when they arrived at the museum, they went straight to the information desk to ask about any new exhibits. The friendly guide told them about a special exhibit on dinosaurs that had just opened. Emily and Jack's eyes lit up with excitement. Dinosaurs were one of Jack's favorite subjects, and Emily was curious to learn more about these ancient creatures. They walked through the museum until they found the entrance to the dinosaur exhibit. The room was dark, with large models of dinosaurs lit up by spotlights. The first thing they saw was a huge skeleton of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Its sharp teeth and long tail made it look very fierce. Jack stood in awe, imagining what it would have been like to see a real T-Rex. Next, they saw a Triceratops skeleton. This dinosaur had 3 large horns on its head and a big, bony frill around its neck. Emily read the information sign, explaining how Triceratops used its horns for defense against predators. Jack was fascinated by the different shapes and sizes of the dinosaur's bones. The exhibit also had interactive displays. There was a station where they could touch replicas of dinosaur bones and fossils. Emily and Jack felt the rough texture of the fossils and learned how paleontologists dig up and study these ancient remains. They even got to see a video showing how scientists work in the field, carefully uncovering dinosaur bones. After spending a long time in the dinosaur exhibit, the family decided to explore the natural history section. This part of the museum had displays about different animals, plants, and the environment. They saw a large diorama of a rainforest with trees, birds, and animals that looked very real. Emily and Jack learned about the importance of rainforests and how they are home to many different species. They moved on to the section about the ocean. Here, they saw models of sea creatures, including a giant squid and a blue whale. There was also an aquarium with live fish and colorful coral. Emily loved watching the fish swim around, and Jack was excited to see a small shark. They read about how the ocean is a vast and mysterious place, full of life and beauty. The next exhibit was about space and the planets. Emily and Jack entered a dark room with a big model of the solar system hanging from the ceiling. They saw planets of all different sizes and colors. There was a display about astronauts and space exploration, with a real space suit that had been worn by an astronaut. Emily imagined what it would be like to travel to space and see the stars up close. Jack was particularly interested in the exhibit about the moon landing. He asked many questions about how astronauts got to the moon and what they did there. Emily explained that the first moon landing happened in 1969, and it was a very important moment in history. They watched a short film showing the astronauts walking on the moon and planting the American flag. After exploring space, they visited the section about inventions and technology. This exhibit showed how different inventions have changed the way people live and work. They saw old telephones, typewriters, and even a model of the first airplane built by the Wright brothers. Emily and Jack were amazed at how far technology had come and how it continues to evolve. One of the highlights of the technology exhibit was a display about robots. There were robots that could move and talk, and even one that could play chess. Jack was fascinated by the idea of robots and how they can help people in many ways. Emily explained that robots are used in factories, hospitals, and even in space. As they continued exploring, they reached the arts section of the museum. This part was full of beautiful paintings, sculptures, and other works of art from different time periods and cultures. Emily and Jack saw famous paintings by artists like Vincent van Gogh and Leonardo da Vinci. They admired the colors and details in the paintings, and Emily explained the stories behind some of the artworks. In the sculpture section, they saw statues made of marble, bronze, and wood. There was a beautiful statue of a ballerina that caught Emily's eye. She read that it was made by a famous artist named Edgar Degas. Jack liked the statue of a lion, which looked very strong and powerful. They learned about how artists create sculptures by shaping and carving different materials. Finally, they visited the section about ancient civilizations. This part of the museum had artifacts from ancient Greece, Rome, China, and other cultures. They saw pottery, jewelry, tools, and everyday items that people used long ago. Emily and Jack learned about how these ancient civilizations lived, worked, and built their societies. One of the most interesting displays was a collection of coins from ancient Rome. Emily read about how the Romans used these coins for trade, and how each coin had the face of a Roman emperor. Jack was curious about how people made coins in the past and how they are different from the money we use today. As the day came to an end, Emily and Jack felt happy and full of new knowledge. They had seen so many amazing things and learned about different parts of history and the world. Mr. and Mrs. Brown took another family photo in front of the museum, capturing the memory of their wonderful day. On the drive home, Emily and Jack talked about their favorite parts of the museum. Jack loved the dinosaur exhibit the most, and Emily couldn't decide between the space section and the art gallery. They both agreed that the museum was a fantastic place to learn and have fun. Back home, Emily and Jack shared their adventure with their friends and showed them the photos they had taken. They felt proud of all the things they had learned and looked forward to their next visit to the museum. The end.